Dad and Rock presents the Falcon and the Winter Soldier after show. This is for episode 5, Truth, the penultimate episode of the season. This is Sean.
And this is Chris.
Man, Chris, what'd you think of this episode?
Dude, I mean, I say this all the time. I think the last one that they had a bunch of like character building and I said was my favorite. This may have been my favorite episode of like Disney Plus TV shows. I mean, Mandalorian, all of them, bundled into one. This may be it for me. And I think I love the level of, just character building in them.
Yeah, it was jam-packed. There's a lot happened this episode, and you liked all of it.
I loved everything of it. I loved the, John Walker getting his because I can't stand that fool.
I know.
And then just everything. But before we get too deep into it, what are we about here?
We're Dad and a Rock. We do a podcast. It's on every podcasting platform, Apple, Spotify, etc. We also have our YouTube channel. You may be watching us on our YouTube channel right now. If you're not, go and check us out. Go ahead and subscribe and like each and every one of our videos because it helps out our channel tremendously.
Absolutely.
And you can also visit dadandrock.com to find our shop at TeePublic and find out about more stuff that we do.
And we're very interactive. So if we miss something or you can, a little more than we do, let us know and we'll go back and forth with you. But you know what I thought. I mean, I kind of got that already. What was your first reaction to it once you were finished?
I was like, each scene was just like, it was so, it was like a lot of meat on the bone. Like it just kept going and going. And there was no like bad or boring scene. Like each one I was enthralled and just eyes glued to the screen. At some point, I watched on my lunch break and it was creeping up closer to, when my lunch break was done. And it was a long episode, man. It was like right around that hour mark. And you said it was like the longest TV episode that they've done on Disney Plus so far, right?
Yeah, I think it ran. Well, I think the runtime was like 58 minutes, but it ran roughly right after the stinger. It was right about 54 minutes long, which is crazy. I mean, we got so used to the WandaVision episodes, which were like
27 minutes,
30 minutes long, so you can squeeze them in at any point. These ones here are real deal,
real deal Holyfield.
Yeah. Let's go.
I didn't. Yeah, it's so long and there's so jam packed with stuff that I guess we should just kind of get right into it. I mean, it opens up with the how the last episode ends. John Walker just killed a guy. He killed one of the flag smashers pretty brutally. He was recorded doing so, and he's still his ears are ringing. He's still got his blood up. He walks away into this like warehouse and he's basically mourning his friend Battlestar really quick. He's kind of, you see flashes in his head thinking about his friend, and eventually it calms him down and he settles himself enough to say, okay, let's get back to work. Just like his friend.
Well, that's what I think Lamar used to always tell him, let's get back to work. So he kind of repeated that back in his head. Yeah. You know what? This happened. Now I've got to get back out there.
Yeah, but before he could leave that warehouse, here comes Bucky and Sam.
Dude, when they walked up, I mean, we got a little bit of this in the trailer. Well, not trailer, but the preview when he was like, "You don't want to do this," and Bucky looks up and says, "Yeah, we do."
It was. I mean, it was this show. This episode had a lot of dialogue heavy. Scenes, and we'll get into them later in the show here, but they kind of put the action right up front, and it was good action too. It reminded me of the final fight in Civil War, where Iron Man and Bucky and Cap were having that three-way fight, and it was just kind of brutal, and you hate to see these characters that you love, you like all of these characters, and you don't want to see this kind of split. I guess it's not so much like that for John Walker's case.
Yeah, no, I think Sam and Bucky have been wanting to punch this dude for a while.
Yeah. And now that he drank the serum, you could punch him all day.
Yeah, exactly. Now, what did you think about him putting up the level of fight he did against the two of them? Do you think it had anything, before you get into, do you think it had anything to do with maybe how the serum has been developed a little differently than how it was for when, Cap and Bucky originally took it?
It could be that. Yeah, it could be a change in the formula, or it could be the fact that before John Walker even took any formula, like he was apparently like the top A++, you could get as far as any kind of a soldier and his athleticism and stuff. So he was already starting at a pretty high point, and
Yeah.
then you give him the serum, it's just like shot him off like a rocket. So it didn't take me out of it. Like, I believe that John Walker may be able to take both these guys. He was giving them both a fight, and Sam, as much as we love him and his wings and stuff,
There's nothing special about Sam, really.
yeah, he doesn't have super strength or anything. So when John Walker clipped his wings, there wasn't too much he could do.
Yeah, he was pretty. Yeah, he was done. I mean, he was essentially out of the fight.
Yeah,
But yeah, once the shield was taken away, that's when Bucky just was like whole out, was whooping him. Once
right.
it was even and that shield was gone, the whooping was coming, and you
Yeah.
felt it coming. He was enjoying every moment of that beating he was giving him, and I think he even loved when he snapped his arm. When he
Yeah.
broke his arm, I think both. I mean, Sam wouldn't revel in that. It's just
Right.
not his character. But I think Bucky would have been like, good.
He might. Yeah. I
Yeah,
think Bucky might.
Bucky. Yeah, I think Bucky would enjoy it. But yeah, it was up in your face. Like I said, I was a little taken by how much of a fight he put up against the two of them.
Right.
But I mean, I'm nitpicking. That was all it was. And I mean, like you said, the level of the fight and the action scenes and the back and forth was fantastic.
Yeah, and I think Bucky and Sam maybe had somewhat different intentions walking in there, because Sam presented it in a way as though, like, hey, man, you made a mistake. Let's come down off this. Let's bring it back to America, and let's just, make these things right. When I think Bucky was more like, I'm taking that shield from you right now because you don't deserve it, and I'll do whatever it takes to take it from you.
Well, Bucky came out at one point and said he was going to take it already. Remember, he told Sam that in an earlier episode. So,
Right.
I mean, that whole episode or the whole scene laid out perfectly on how these characters have developed to this point. Because, I mean, Sam has still been that diplomatic character when he was one-on-one with Carly.
Yeah.
When he's had interactions with Walker. And
Yeah.
now he's always trying to talk him down. Even later in this episode, we're going to hear when he's talking to Bucky himself.
Right.
So seeing that he has this training on how to deal with soldiers that have been through, situations and PTSD and everything.
Right.
They are holding strong to that part of his character, and I love it.
Yeah, it's a great character growth, because he's always had that, even from his introduction, how he worked at the VA and stuff. But for them to take that one character aspect and really shape who he is and really flesh that out through this series in particular, it's been really good. But as far as the end of this fight goes, it's action packed. They essentially rip the shield off. Sam uses his jetpack. He doesn't have his wings, but he's using his jetpack for leverage to try to get it off. And eventually they do, and they end up breaking John Walker's arm, and he kind of passes out. And they just kind of, I guess Bucky hightails it out of there. I don't know where he disappears to. But later in this same warehouse, we see guys from the army kind of like, inspecting the place. And I guess they took John Walker out of there. And we have a bit of a scene where Sam's talking to his buddy Joaquin, who's a soldier that we saw in the first couple of episodes. Yeah. We haven't seen him since.
Yeah, he's like, how did you break these? And
right.
Sam didn't answer. It's like I think he didn't, as much as they did what they had to do against Walker.
Yeah.
I don't think either Sam nor Bucky, for that matter, really want to talk about it or let it out. They just kind of want to let that be what happened and not, revel in it.
Yeah, and I guess Sam was careful to hide this shield, because if the government was there and saw it, they probably would take it. So Sam did something that he'd be able to walk away with it himself.
Yeah, he put it aside.
Yeah, we're gonna hide that shield and take it with us. But he says something to Joaquin. He's got the broken wings there in the bag, and Joaquin's like, "Well, what do you want me to do with these?" And he's just like, "Take it."
Keep him.
Which is funny, because in the comics, this character actually becomes a version of the Falcon. So that might be something that pays off.
So you think they're playing the long game with this? Well, I don't think they were repairable. I think he knew they were done.
Well,
and
we saw him tinker. Remember in those first episodes, they were eating at that cafe, and Joaquin started to tinker with Red Wing. He was like, "Here, let me take a look at it." So he may have the ability to do so. I don't know. I think they just left that nugget for a thread to pick up later.
They're good at that. They'll drop a little seed here, and if that seed catches some water, it grows. And but man, that whole thing. And then when we see Bucky actually leave, He said, "Where are you going to go? Deal with Zemo?" And there was like, it was almost still disdain between them at that point. They were,
Yeah.
I think it was such a high stress situation.
Yeah.
They were both
They're
just
coming
kind of
down.
like burnout. They needed to go their own ways. They needed
Right.
to do their own thing, because you can even see it in Sam. It was like he wasn't even truly acting himself, because I don't think he would have shot that type of jab at Bucky at this point in the show, in the way that a relationship has formed.
Yeah, and it's important to Bucky to make things right with the Wakandans. I mean,
Yeah.
handing Zemo to them is something that's a priority for him. So yeah, he would go and do that, and we'll see that a little later. But from here we head to a scene, I guess the court-martialing, right, of John Walker.
Oh man, yeah, this was powerful.
Yeah, it
And
was intense.
let's just go ahead and check out this little clip of that here.
I understand that. I understand that. I lived my life by your mandates. I dedicated my life to your mandates. I only ever did what you asked of me, what you told me to be and trained me to do, and I did it. And I did it well.
Yeah.
Dude, and we kind of talked about this a little bit before the show started. He said absolutely nothing false.
Right.
Everything he said there was factually correct.
Yeah.
And
I got to give it up to Wyatt Russell, the actor. I think he's done a really great job at kind of fleshing out this character. Even I was just watching some videos too, and like the way he kind of walks and skulks around, he's got these little like shoulder twitches and stuff. Like he feels like he's a volcano about to bubble over at any point. And that's just a great portrayal. But he was intense in this scene. He's really showing his ass. While I was watching the scene, I was like, man, you are just making a show of this, and you're not going to get back to where you were.
Well, they were showing his wife even reacting, like how he was reacting.
But you're right. Like what he's saying was correct. Like they were taking advantage of him the same way that they've taken advantage of Isaiah in the past. The only difference is Isaiah didn't have the freedom to speak out like this, but this, blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy, all-American, does. He has the wherewithal to actually, talk back, and it was an intense scene.
Yes, it doesn't matter that John Walker didn't. No, okay.
It was actually Carly that killed Battlestar. He lied about it, Battlestar's parents.
Yeah. I mean, that's something we plan on talking about here in the future. But yeah, I mean, I think that's huge.
Yeah,
I mean, and you can tell like he's talking to
he's definitely a villain.
Yeah,
this guy, but he's an MCU villain. He's not like a mustache twirling evil for evil's sake villain. Like he has a history, a backstory, and motivations that they're just right on the line of like, oh, I might be able to go with that if I was pushed that certain way.
Well, I mean,
in the grand tradition of MCU villains, he's very fleshed out.
Well, Battlestar, I mean, went ahead and even said it in the last episode, not this one here. I mean, power just turns you into who you really are.
Right. Yeah.
And now we are seeing who he truly is.
Yeah. And he sees himself as this great guy. So he's like, oh, I'm going to take the serum then because I'll be great. I am Captain America.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. When he said that in the trial, he said, I am Captain America.
He said that twice within like 15 minutes of the show. He said it to Sam as he was about to beat his head in with the shield. And he said it to this during this court-martialing. Like,
yeah, he was so defiant during the whole thing. Definitely when he turned his back and he walked out.
Yeah,
when they
he
were
walked away before they were even done.
I mean, they could have easily turned this into a court-martial.
Yeah.
They were only recommending the discipline they were giving him.
Which, I mean, they were giving him basically a dishonorable discharge with no benefits. And like, I mean, his career is gone. He has to start from square one, basically. Which, that's a far fall. I mean, just a couple weeks ago, they had posters of him everywhere. They were singing his praises on Good Morning America. Yeah. And now he's, essentially losing benefits and everything. So, his world's crashing down around him and it leaves him in a place that's very questionable. And we'll see at the very end of this show, like what his next steps are.
Yeah. I mean, we have that. So after this whole thing is over, he's sitting on a bench. And his wife's sitting with him, and she's like, okay, the next step you have to do is you got to go talk to Lamar's family.
Yeah.
You got to go tell them what happened. You got to console them. You got to give it to them face to face. It can't be a phone call. I mean, she didn't say that, but that's essentially what she's, leading. It's got to be a personable, back and forth with them.
Right. This has got to be something that you do. And as he's sitting there, we get this weird out of the blue cameo from Julia Louis-Dreyfus of Seinfeld and Veep and all kinds of shows. I was thrown back for a second. I was like,
it took me a second. I thought I knew who it was, then I didn't know who it was. It was so quick. And I think my wife, Janessa, was like, hold on. Is that I didn't expect to see her.
Yeah, well, I mean, here's an introduction. I think her name in the comic books is Lady Hydra or Ms. Hydra, something like that. But she introduces herself and she gives this long name,
Valentina Algina D. Fontaine or Constantine or however she wants to be called.
Something crazy. But she has a business card that she hands to John's wife that doesn't have anything on it.
Yeah, exactly.
She was weird, man. I don't know if this was like, I mean, of course, you don't cast somebody like that just to have a weird scene and then nothing afterwards. Like, we're going to see her again.
It's one of those things, like I was telling Janessa, I was like, you know what? You don't say no to Marvel now. You may have said no to Marvel the first few years that they were doing it. Right. Now you don't, because once you're in the world, you're in the world.
Yeah. Either you are possibly making all sorts of appearances in movies and TV now.
Mm-hmm. You're playing the long game with them. Now you just got to come to an understanding, because a lot of actors earlier were like, I don't want to be known for one role.
One role, yeah.
Now, when I think Robert Downey Jr., I think Iron Man. He will forever be Iron Man to me. So that's what they got to come to grips with. That once they get into a very successful franchise like this, people will look at them that didn't know them prior.
Yeah.
So a younger generation that didn't know Friends, for instance, or Veep.
Right.
That see her now, and they're going to see her as this character.
Well, I think we're just in different times now too, where being in a superhero property, it would have been schlock like Steel or Spawn or stuff that was just like not very good.
Yeah.
No offense to those stuff. I grew up with that stuff, so it has a special place in my heart. But you don't want to be caught up with that when this is totally different. I mean, Marvel is making stuff that, later in this episode, with Isaiah, and we're talking about, the oppression that Black people have faced in our country for 500 years. And just they were like getting to some deep topics with a lot of stuff that actors would probably love to like sit down and just act with. You're not on a green screen. You're not flying around on wire. You're just sitting in a room with another actor acting.
It's a full-fledged drama, essentially.
Yeah.
What's going on?
I'm sure that's got to be pretty attractive to a lot of actors out there.
Yeah, but we have that that whole scene there with the court martial. But then we go to remember that little town that Carly and the Flag Smashers were in? That's when we seen Sam and Zemo and
that we can't
Bucky.
Remember the name of.
We can't remember the name of this town for the life of us.
Yeah,
but
it's like
this whole episode
or something.
Yeah, something down those lines. This whole episode, they're talking about how the GRC are rounding up all these people that are sympathizers to the Flag Smashers.
Yeah, so all those folks that were helping Carly and the Flag Smashers in the previous episodes, giving them stew to eat, giving them beds to sleep on, all those children, going around playing with cards and toys and stuff, they were all taken away by this GRC group.
Yeah, and that's when we see. I think that's where the switch is literally flipped.
Oh yeah.
Beforehand, you can see Carly was wrestling with what to do. She did the bombing of the building. But I think she wanted to do that and didn't want to do it at the exact same time. But she knew that's the only way to get their attention. Yeah.
She's in a very precarious state. She was kind of leaning towards going too dark. And then she saw one of her Flag Smasher friends get a shield to the face over and over again. And then right after, she goes back to this town and all those people are gone because of her. Essentially, she cops up to it. She's like, because of, the quote unquote terrorists, which is we are. Now she's pretty much embraced it. And we'll see later in the episode how much she's embraced it.
Oh, this is another thing we were talking about before the show started. She dropped a GD on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
In that episode, I'm like, whoa! It caught me off guard.
Yeah.
But it pleased me that they weren't changing dialogue and things just because of the platform that it's on.
Because of the mouse. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was pleased to see that. But we keep going here. Like I said, we can't stall in one area because it's.
I know, because the show keeps going. This episode just keeps moving and moving. So then we go to Sokovia. we follow up with where Bucky went to, and we see this memorial there in Sokovia of the families that died during the big incident during Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
And Baron Zemo's there, maskless, not wearing his mask, just kind of paying respect to the fallen his own family and a lot of the Sokovians that fell during that time. And Bucky walks up, and Baron Zemo's like, "I'm surprised it took you this long."
Yeah.
But
I love that. I love just seeing him stand there. I love the silence. There was a quiet about him standing in front of that memorial, and Bucky standing off in basically a little, I won't say off camera, but like in the provincial. I can saying it wrong. But
somewhere, just kind of off screen, and he lets Zemo have his moment of reflection and remembrance or whatever before he walks up, and then Zemo, he basically, I think he's thinking that Bucky's there to kill him.
He's going to join his family. That's where he wanted to die. He wanted to die at that memorial where he can join his wife and kids.
Yeah, which I mean, Bucky is, or not Bucky, but Baron Zemo is, he has this, he's a very dynamic character. Like, he's got this mission to do what he can with taking, super soldiers kind of off the playing board and take them out. But at the same time, like, he's also a character that, is sort of not the same man that he was when he had a wife and children to take care of. So he's like, there's always that longing. So I think if Baron Zemo were to die at any point, I think he'd be ready for it. Like, he's not the type of character like, oh, I'm going to, die. That's kind of frees him to like jump into these situations as much as he does.
Well, that tells you how much like they built this character and everything in this show. Yeah. It's like he's almost a sympathetical character. Right. You feel for portions of him, but you also know who he is. Yeah. So I mean, there's really very, if any, characters in this show that are one-dimensional. Every character, even Sam's sister Sarah, is multi-dimensional. Yeah. Which makes for a great show, because it's not like something's going to happen just because their character would do that, because it's very obvious for them to do that.
It just feels like a very real, lived-in world. When you have characters that just feel so real. Like you said, even Sam's sister, which should be just some throwaway character in any other show. But she's got her own stuff going on. She's got her own problems she's dealing with. She's, she doesn't have time for Sam at the beginning of this show, and it's fun. It feels real, like I said.
But when they're standing in front of this actual memorial, Bucky raises the gun and basically pulls the trigger. Yeah. And all you hear is click.
Just to punk him, I guess.
I think there was more to that than that. I think it was more to show him that the Winter Soldier is dead. Right. Because that would have been him making amends for when he was the Winter Soldier. Because that's what, the beginning of the show with him was. It was him like fixing all his wrongs. And Zemo is one of his wrongs. Yeah. So the fact that he lifted the gun, pulled the trigger, the hammer hit nothing, but then out of his arm, his vibranium arm, he just drops all the bullets. And just seeing them like falling slow motion in the ground, the effect that they were looking for, they got out of me. I was like, you know what? He's growing. Zemo has realized that he no longer has any control over this guy anymore. Yeah. Even when he's trying to antagonize him, because I think he was. I think Zemo wanted to die there. Right. I think he realized he's going to Wakanda. And he don't want to be in Wakanda.
Right. Yeah, what's worse?
So I figured he was at peace with the situation, and he wanted to die and join his family. And the fact that, Bucky didn't do that was meaningful to Bucky more so than Zemo.
Right. It felt like a real character growth moment for Bucky, which was nice. And Baron Zemo didn't really have any time to be relieved or breathe after that, because right after that, the Wakandans...
Ayo walks in. Thor Magali walk in.
Yeah. And so they take him away. I guess they're going to they mentioned they're taking him to the raft.
Yeah.
The raft was something that was created in Civil War. And it's this prison in the middle of the ocean that is basically like super prison that can hold superheroes. They created it for the superheroes that weren't going to sign the treaty or the accords at that time. So that's why Captain America and his group was like on the run the whole time. Otherwise, they would have been sent to the raft because they didn't sign this treaty. And it's still in the world. It was something that Tony Stark actually helped design.
Go figure.
Yeah, during that whole Civil War period. The raft may play a part actually. Now that we're getting introduced to all these different anti-heroes and villains like
something
John
tells
Walker.
me Zemo is going to escape that raft because we're going to get a Wakandan series.
Yeah,
we're going to see more from Zemo. We're going to see more from Wakanda.
I think we'll see more of John Walker too. I think he's surviving next episode. We'll see him transform himself into in the comics he's called U.S. Agent, so we'll see if they go there.
Yeah, he's going to wind up being full U.S. Agent. I mean, he's pretty much because he's no longer Cap anymore.
Right.
They've stripped him of that title. Thank God. I couldn't stand the fact that they were calling him that.
I know.
Man, him and that, old man up face.
So they take Baron Zemo away, and as they're walking away, basically she tells Bucky, don't show your face around Wakanda for a while because we're still kind of upset with you. And he's like, fair enough.
Yeah, White Wolf needs to be scarce or something down those lines.
Yeah, he says fair enough, but then right after he's like, can I ask you for one more favor?
I found that funny.
Yeah, and apparently they do. We'll see. I guess in this episode we never really really learn what the favor was, but I have some speculation. I'm sure.
We'll get to that here in a minute.
Yeah.
Oh man, but now it gets deep. Now it gets really deep because now Sam's on his own. Sam's walking back, and you recognize the area he's in immediately. He's going back.
He's back in Baltimore.
He wants to go ahead and have a conversation, just him and Isaiah. He needs. It's terrible to say he needs closure because in reality, Isaiah needed the closure.
Yeah,
but I think he said he needs to understand what went wrong, what happened, why did things turn the way they did, and it was a long conversation.
Yeah, I think when he first met Isaiah, the shock of that Isaiah even existed was kind of too much for him, where he couldn't even form the ideas of what to question. And now that he's had some time for that to kind of marinate in his head, he's coming back, and he's realizing that he's stepping into this position that Isaiah has been in before, taking on the legacy of Steve Rogers. And what does that mean for a black man in America?
Yeah, not a blonde hair, blue-eyed, 6'4", whatever tall, Aryan looking male.
Yeah, exactly. And Isaiah kind of they have a discussion. It's basically Isaiah who, when he was a young man in his prime, probably back in the 60s, you just remember the racial tensions at that point, and they were like, there was no, he says as much, he says like, for America there's no way that they're going to make a black man Captain America. And you don't want to believe that, and Sam even says it's today, it's like it's 2021 or whatever. And Isaiah chides him for it. He's like, do you really think America's changed that much that that's still not true?
He said, and you're naive or blind to it or something down those lines.
Right. And it's like, the government did, slyly take that shield away from you and give it to another blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy, maybe it wasn't as nefarious this time around. Maybe they were, they didn't have the same exact dark intentions, but maybe they did. Like the result is still the same. You have a black man that's denied having that ability to become that symbol.
Well, he also did not want it because I think deep down he knew the exact same thing that Isaiah was saying, that this country would not accept a black man as the face of of America.
Yeah, and he probably didn't want to say that out loud, but that was a feeling that was just biting at him inside.
Yeah. So I mean, they have that. I mean, he refers to like what happened in World War II when they were just giving them shots, and he thought they were tetanus shots that they were all telling him. So they had no. I mean, even nowadays when soldiers go to get deployed, they just get in a line, right? And I mean, they're both sides, both shoulders just you're getting vaccinations, and in reality, you have no clue what you're getting. All you know is that you have to get them. You have no choice in the matter, and you're going to be deployed with it. So he's like, we're getting things that we were told were tetanus, and guys were dropping. Yeah, they were they start randomly dying.
which mirrors real life events here in our world, in our cinematic universe, with the Tuskegee Airmen back in the day, where they were giving them, supposedly giving them shots for syphilis and they ended up just being placebos just because they wanted to study the effects of syphilis long term. And just, that devious stuff that those men had to deal with in our world.
Well, he
back then.
referred to them. The Red Tails, the
Yeah, the Red
Tuskegee
Tails.
Airmen.
Yeah.
So yeah, he flat out, even referenced them here in the show. Not in that aspect, but he talked about how they were mistreated when they came back.
Yeah, and there was another parallel here too, because he talks about an instance where a lot of his men were taken, across enemy lines and captured, and he decided to go get them and free them, and he does. And, when he comes back, he wasn't regarded as a hero. He was basically tortured for another, 20, 30 years with experimentation. And it just mirrors the same thing that Steve did in the first, Captain America, the first Avengers. Bucky and his crew, they get captured behind enemy lines, and Steve, does what he can. He jumps off the stage, from being the dancing Captain America in that cheesy suit, and he puts on a leather jacket and he goes and kicks ass. And when he comes back, he's regarded as a hero. Everybody's applauding him, like, oh my gosh, what a guy. So you just see the split, the difference in between two similar scenarios between two different people. And
what are your thoughts on them treading like awfully closely to like current events almost? I wouldn't say current events, but I would say more like what the modern time is when they go recording, Cap killing that one guy, the Flag Smasher, to this conversation about how close to home a lot of these events actually seem to be, like politically wise.
Yeah. See, that can be dangerous at times, where it distracts and takes away from the story that you're telling, where maybe it turns characters and gives them plot points that don't maybe necessarily make sense for that character. I feel it's a good thing. I mean, these things, you're going to turn on the news and see it anyway. Like, I like being able to, I think they're doing it with a masterful stroke. They're doing it in a really good way. None of it, it's like, it all makes sense for the story.
Yeah.
It's like none of this stuff feels
they're not
foreign.
going out of their way to do it, but it's fitting the story narrative.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and it fits within this world that they're telling. 500 years of oppression as far as being black in America, and talking about just some of the stuff that deals with and Sam nowadays, and even some of the stuff that mirrors just with COVID. And they didn't intend this, but like the blip, how the blip affected the economy and people's just their minds and just their feelings on the world around them, and how COVID has kind of done the same thing. That was almost like prescient, where MCU didn't even mean to step into that. But
yeah,
and I think that's what makes the MCU so good, is that they really they tell good stories, and they tell real stories with
real stories. They make you think without you realizing you're thinking.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that's the best way to go about doing it.
And I think, there's some folks out there where they just want to watch a superhero punch them up, beat them up show, and action and adventure. And they don't really want to think, about, hey, I don't want to get woke by watching a Marvel show or whatever. But it's like this franchise in particular, Captain America, has always been political by nature. Like, even back in the day when Captain America was introduced, and in the cover of the comic book, he's punching Adolf Hitler in the face. That issue came out before America had even entered the war. So it's like Captain America as a brand, it's always like he's tussled in the past what it means to even be America, when they were going through the Watergate scandal, and in real life, and what does it mean to be a patriotic American, when American itself seems to be having all these different facets and shades and stuff that you maybe don't agree with. And it's a struggle. And that's why I love Chris Evans' portrayal of the character, and how they treated him throughout this, those 10 years of movies, with such a care, basically, of the character. So anyway, we're going on a diatribe on a show, on an episode that's already jam-packed. So I guess we should get back to it.
Let's do this here. So after that whole thing takes place, Sam is in his head. Sam is thinking, what did I learn from this situation? And I've got to go somewhere to clear his head. So he goes home. Yeah. He goes home and sees Sarah and the kids, and we see him actually mending the net for the fishing boat
with his nephews.
Yeah, and he starts talking about a spot that he used to go out with his parents, and he wants to take the boys out there before they sell the boat. And then the boys break it to him. He's like, "Oh, Mom said we can't sell the boat. It's too busted up."
Hey, nobody's gonna buy it.
Yeah, and he's like, "Hold on." And he looks over at Sarah. The next thing you know, she's like, "Well, you came home last night like a puppy dog in the
In the
rain."
rain. Right.
And then she kind of breaks it to him, the boat's so messed up and the buyer backed out. So that they're going through things. And then he finds out that, she's doing what Mom did. She's helping, these two kids from school that were too prideful to ask for help because Dad doesn't get out of bed till noon.
Yeah.
And then it just dawns on him. He said, "You know what? How many favors did Mom and Dad do to this town?" And he starts calling them in. And you hear him calling them in, and everyone is really happy and willing to help. One of them calls him Falcon.
Yeah. Basically reaches out to his extended family. I mean, his immediate family was having a hard time, and he started calling on neighbors and people in the community to come out and help, and they're willing to do so. And which is a nice scene because basically they're going to restore this boat so that their family so they can keep it. I mean, Sarah and Sam have this conversation as they're painting the boat at one point, but it's like this was their family's boat.
Yeah.
And like their father and mother,
Dad's name is on the boat itself.
yeah, and a lot of history. Like I couldn't imagine having something like that and having to get rid of it just because it's breaking you, as financially.
Yeah.
So Sarah, we'll get to it, but within this mix of the community, Bucky shows up.
And you say, "Okay, how are we going to get that off the truck?" And Bucky just picks it up and drops it down. Everyone kind of looks at him like, "Oh, what?"
Yeah, and he has a big Wakandan suitcase in tow, and he's like, "I got something for you, present." We never learn in this episode what it is, but we can speculate.
Yeah, but that was the beginning, I think, of the heart of this series.
Yeah,
not just this show itself or this episode, but the series as a whole. When you see Sam and Bucky going back and forth, and he's sticking around, he's helping them with I think the valve was loose, and he went over. It was a funny line because he grabs it with the non-Wakandan arm, and he tightens it, and then Sam's like, "Well, why didn't you use the other arm?" He's like, "I didn't even think about it."
I'm right-handed, like I don't know.
But when they go from there, then the interaction pretty much right there and then between Bucky and Sarah.
Oh yeah.
Bucky
had eyes for a pretty lady.
And she noticed him immediately too.
Oh yeah.
And then he turns around, and when Sam's walking off, he introduces himself, and he sees the look in both their eyes, and you see him look at him, and like, "Oh no, this ain't going down this way."
He looks up and he smiles at her, and he's like, "I'm Bucky." She's like, "Oh, hi, Bucky." Yeah, that was funny. That was a funny scene.
But the whole thing, I love how he's sticking around. He's helping them with the boat. And then like at the end of the evening, he's like, "Yep, I got to go. I need to go ahead and find a place to crash and, catch my flight in the morning."
Right.
And Sam's like, "You're going to make me do this, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're going to put me in this position."
Yeah. So he asks him to stay, of course. It's like because Bucky's transferring from that associate, that friend of a friend, to an actual friend that you would want to have around.
Yeah.
They're finally getting to that point. We knew it was coming when we had this show from the get-go. A couple of folks start as button heads, like when they're both their names are in the title. Then we even saw that in Kong versus Godzilla versus Kong. Eventually they came to an understanding.
That's funny. But yeah, there was a lot that went on. They're fixing the boat, the whole deal. And then you really find them, they're standing outside and they're talking. And we've talked about, the conversation that Sam had with Isaiah, but then there's I don't know if it's an aha moment or if it's just a realization from Bucky himself. And let's take a quick look at this here.
When Steve told me what he was planning, I don't think either of us really understood what it felt like for the black man to be handed the shield. How could we? I owe you an apology. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
The growth right there, just like I said, the realization that he didn't understand what it meant for Sam getting the shield.
Mhm.
And just that little bit of him saying, I'm sorry. Those little words, I am sorry,
Yeah.
had to have gone a long way with them mending fences and understanding and becoming more. They're getting to the friend point, but I think like they're getting to be more and more family than
Right.
friends.
Yeah. And before, and we even saw it a few episodes ago, Bucky had a real tough time with Sam denying that shield because he took it personally. He took it like, if Steve was wrong about you, then he was wrong about me. It was all about Bucky at that point. He couldn't get around the fact that Sam had his own reasons for not accepting that shield immediately. So yeah, that was a heck of a growth moment. Yeah, for those two.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I love the characters. I mean, it's just that's the part of this show that I am loving more than anything.
Yeah,
I love the character development. It's the same in WandaVision. I loved how much there was really next to no action in that series at all, besides the ending. Really,
right.
And I loved the character development in that. And that whole thing, it's all speaking to me. And I hope they continue it within Loki. But
Yeah,
we did skip two very important things here. One scene was, we've already kind of talked about it a little bit here, but when Walker goes and talks to Lamar's family.
yeah. Jason Huggins brought that up earlier. That scene was crazy because he was doing the right thing by talking to. I keep wanting to call him Battlestar, by Battlestar's parents. But his father, like Lamar's father, asks him point blank. He's like, "The man that you killed, was he the man that killed my son?" And it definitely wasn't.
No,
but he says it was.
Yeah, he flat out lied to him. And like we were saying, we're not sure if that was Lamar's wife or sister that's in the room with her parents, but you can see the way she's looking at him.
She side eyes him. Yeah.
Yeah, she's not buying what he's selling.
Right. She can tell there's something up with him.
Yeah, something's going on. Something's off. Because I've got a feeling that they've known him for a very long time.
Yeah.
I mean, there's pictures of them being deployed together and everything. So they know him. And usually when you know someone really well, you know when someone's full of crap.
Yes.
Yeah. Definitely when you're a similar age.
Right.
You can smell it. And I think she's on to something.
Yeah. And this was another instance of John just making the wrong choice in the moment, having two paths before him, and he takes the wrong one.
He took the wrong one. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what the reaction would have been if he flat out said, you know what? It was not the person, but it was all in the heat and it was emotional and the whole thing.
Been honest and been like, I was just so angry. I was just blinded by rage at that point because I just lost my best friend, and this man was holding me back as I was trying to get to him, and I just took all my emotion out on this guy, and I feel terrible about it. Like, that's, hey, war is hell, and you'd be able to kind of get around that, or at least work through that. But by just straight up lying to the parents of the man,
now he's not giving himself an out.
No. But that just goes to show like his character.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you take the serum, you become who you really are.
Right.
But I mean, then now there's this, and I think it was like the second episode of the after show or whatever it was. I was like, Sharron Carter is the power broker. You were talking, and I had one of those aha moments,
right?
And I had to stop you and go ahead and say it. I am 100% sure she is now.
Oh, yeah. This conversation, this phone call points to that for sure. I mean, she's got Batroc the Leaper, the French guy from the first episode and from Captain America Winter Soldier, the movie. She apparently is the one that not only hired him from the beginning with this first mission in this series, but she's hiring him again to basically infiltrate Flag Smashers and go after Sam, which is like, I don't know what's going on with her,
which is confusing. But it almost maybe she may almost realize that he's not going to get to Sam, but she needs him to infiltrate the Flag Smashers.
Right. Yeah.
So it's kind of her way of manipulating him.
Yeah.
To get him to do what she wants.
But the fact that she has this kind of power and is able to make these kind of calls, it definitely points to
she's straight up. And I didn't even I was watching this episode, and when I first watched it, I didn't connect the dots because I was watching it to watch it. The second time around, what I do is I turn on the closed captions, and once that hit and I seen his name, I hit pause and I had a freak out moment. And then Janessa was still in the living room. I was like, I was right.
Right. That's so funny.
She's like, calm down. Jeez. I'm like, no, get these things right. And it was recorded and it's in
You got
YouTube
it.
history.
That's right.
But
check the
man, yeah, I was so pumped when I seen that. I was like, I was astonished that I may have nailed something, because I mean, we talk about it and everything we talk about is, in hindsight.
Yeah. So a couple of very important scenes as far as character development with some of these science characters with Sharron Carter and John Walker. So then we head back to Sam's house down there in the bayou. I'm not sure exactly where he lives. Somewhere in Louisiana.
Somewhere in the South. Yeah, I'll say Louisiana area,
or maybe like, I don't know, South Carolina or something. I don't know. Whatever. There's a lot of those willow trees that points to the south, deep south for me. But anyway, so Bucky is sleeping on the couch. He was able, they gave him a home for the evening. He slept on the couch. He wakes up to the sound of Sam's nephews, playing with the shield essentially, and he does. Everybody else that's had the shield, he's got mad at, but for these boys playing with it, he smiled and thought it was funny.
Yeah, and they were like, "Oh, put it down, put it down, put it down." They put it away and ran.
Yeah. But so then he heads out. He meets Sam at this boat, and the two of them try working on this boat together. And I guess they're working on some sort of water pump that Sarah decided that wasn't what Sarah thought was going on with the boat.
Yeah, I'm learning that all the notes I put together notes for the show afterwards, and I always watch it with after the closed captions. And I'm learning you pick up little Easter eggs in them that may not have been meant to be there.
You got to, especially with an episode this deep, man. There's so much going on.
But yeah, I mean, the whole water pump thing was hilarious. They're down there and they're working on it, and she comes up like, "No, I told you it wasn't that." And she's like, "You know what? I wouldn't tell you how to do a barrel roll or something because I don't know how to do it."
And he just has to walk away. He's like, all right. So him and Bucky,
they start walking away. They're talking about how mean she is.
So it's another bonding moment for them, and now they get to the real heart of them. I mean, talking about bonding, these two characters, they start working. They basically are playing, frisbee with the shield. They're tossing it back and forth, bouncing it off trees, and they're just getting into some deep conversation here.
Yeah, we'll go with this one here.
You up for a little tough love? You want to climb out of that hell you're in. Do the work. Do it.
I've been making amends.
You weren't amending, you were avenging. You were stopping all the wrongdoers you enabled as the Winter Soldier.
I love that you're not amending, you're avenging.
Yeah, he was just giving him some truth bombs, man.
And I love we're to the point now with these two that he's like, I know I can now push a little bit. I can give him some reality without worrying about any type of kickback. Because he asked me, are you still having those dreams? And Bucky was straight about it because he lies to everybody. He lied to the therapist.
Right, yeah.
It's
I didn't catch that. You're right.
Yeah, because he told everyone else no. He was straight with him. He's like, you know what? I'm still having the dreams. And I fear that the Winter Soldier is still a part of me.
Yeah.
So you can see that vulnerability in him. And then when Sam's like, do the work, don't be making everything right for your sake. Make it right for the people that you wronged.
He said something really that you could really take away here. It's not just about saying sorry or apologizing. It's about being of service to other people. Like not just words, it's actions. It's doing the right thing for these folks. Which Bucky takes to heart like immediately. He's like, he's like, you're right. And you're right. These two have really dropped their defenses when it comes to one another. Like they're able to get to the soft, squishy parts inside.
Oh, that's funny. But this is another one of those parts of the episode that I just love. I love just seeing it felt like we were just privy to two people just standing outside.
I know, right?
It just felt like that we were just kind of standing in the back and we're hearing two buddies just talk.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you can pull that off, it's fantastic. But yeah, when he tells Bucky to do the work, and this, Sam's holding the shield at this point, and he knows what he wants to do, and he knows what he should do now.
Yeah.
So then, I mean, he tells, like I said, Bucky to do the work. So then, I mean, we always love a good,
gotta
montage.
have a montage.
Yeah, here we go. Dude, I love that. I'm such a sucker for like a warm-up or a fight montage or a training montage.
I am too. You and I love like sports movies and stuff too. It's the same kind of thing.
I can just see Rocky out in the tundra, in the barn doing pull-ups and sit-ups and but man, you pointed out, I was like, you had to like do a double take to see if that was actually, Sam, or why I can't think of his name off the top of my head. That was like doing all those flips and everything.
Oh yeah, like was that actually Anthony Mackie doing that stuff, or did they just like CG his face onto a stuntman? Like some of those flips, forget about even throwing the shield, but just the insane flips he was doing. But I guess you know what, he's done that. I don't know if Anthony Mackie's done that, but Sam has done that in the Falcon. So using those wings to like do kind of crazy flips and stuff while he's fighting. So look, he's gonna be formidable. He may not have super soldier serum, but if he is able to throw that shield around the way these other Captain Americas have before, it's going to work well. And I actually had these thoughts as we were going through as I was watching this montage earlier, as I was watching the show. I was thinking to myself, like, when Captain America at the end of Endgame, and he's this old man that sits on this bench, and it was a toss-up as far as the fan base. Like, if he's retiring, per se, who's going to be Captain America? Is it going to be Bucky or Sam?
I thought for sure it was Bucky going
into it. A lot of
it.
people did. In the comics, it was Bucky. Bucky he was Captain America for a while, and so was Sam.
So was Sam, yeah.
I just thought maybe it should go to Bucky because of all the history that they had. They were partners for so damn long, and from World War II, and just all the trauma that Bucky went through. I just thought it was a natural progression for him to take that mantle. But this show and this episode in particular has really been like, it's nobody else but Sam, man. Sam's got to have this thing. Like I love Bucky. I love him as a character and stuff, but even Bucky knows that like it should be Sam. And it's just, I flash back to that scene in Endgame where Sam tells Steve, he's like, it feels, the shield feels like it's somebody else's. And Steve kind of looks surprised, and he looks up at him. He's like, well, it's not. It's like he has to convince him. Like Steve is damn well sure that this shield belongs to Sam. And now I saw it. I saw what Steve saw at the end of that at the end of that movie. So it's great, man. Just they did a lot of work in this series to make that just a foregone conclusion.
And it's also, the whole show has been convincing Sam that he is who Steve's seen.
Right.
Like for a long time, he didn't believe that he was worthy to carry the shield.
Yeah. And
now, like, after all the growth between the character and Sam and Bucky's, back and forth, and their character growth, he's come to that, conclusion. And Isaiah played a huge part in this, I think.
Right.
And, going forward, I want to see what's in that Wakandan, briefcase. I really do. I was so mad when they went ahead and they flipped it up. You seen him look down, and then it went black. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
But what do you okay, so what do you think what it is? Do you think it's a mashup between Captain America and Falcon, or do you think it's straight up Falcon get up?
I am of the opinion, and this is just informed by some of the comics and stuff, I think he's going to get wings back. He's going to be a brand new, I don't know if he's going to still call himself the Falcon or call himself Captain America or call himself something else entirely, but I think he's going to get wings back. I think he's going to have new Wakandan developed jetpack wings that he can wear and take advantage of.
Because now it's not Yeah, because now it's not property of the United States.
Yeah,
Did you catch that? We're going backwards a little bit here, so I apologize about
from
that.
Ms. Hydra or whatever.
Yes,
Julie Louis
when
Dreyfus.
she said it technically wasn't U.S. property, and I paused it for a second. I was like, "Holy crap, she's right. That's Wakandan."
Oh
Technically, that
yeah,
shield was replaced. It's Wakandan technology, the
I
vibranium.
didn't think about that. I just in my head I was like, well, yeah, it was Steve's. Like Steve, that was belonged to Steve, and it's his to give to who he wants. But you're right. That particular
Remember,
shield,
get that man a
get
shield.
that man a shield. And it was Wakandan vibranium from
Yes.
Wakanda, and we just kind of yanked it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, because it became a part of Steve and Captain America. So
right,
the U.S. government, I don't think, knew he needed a new shield.
right.
And then Wakanda, Black Panther was like, get him a new shield. Get this man a shield.
Right. That was a good catch, man. You're all about these good catches. You're like Sam catching that shield.
That just tells you how much I'm into this show.
Yeah.
I'm really, really enjoying it. But we're going backwards a little bit. We were at the conclusions here.
Yeah, we're wrapping up this episode here, this jam-packed episode. Basically, we're all heading to New York City. They're having this big GRC conference here. We see Carly and the Flag Smashers. They're talking to each other, and there's a reveal shot that there's, the Empire State Building or some, the New York City skyline. They're in New York City.
Yeah.
You mentioned that's kind of a plot hold, like how did they get there? But we'll disregard it.
Yeah, we'll suspend belief.
Carly and the Flag Smashers are in New York City. They're basically taking over this GRC conference. We know, and I'm pretty sure that Bucky was heading back to his home in New York City, his apartment, to make amends and make things right with his neighbor, the old Asian man that he'd killed his son previously when he was Winter Soldier.
That's going to be a heartbreaking conversation. It's something really hard to watch.
Yeah. So Bucky's going to be in New York already. We've got Sam ready to take on the mantle and opening up that Wakandan suitcase to see what's inside. I think everything's going to converge.
He got a call from his buddy in the army.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? We got all this going on. All these pings were taking place all over Europe where these things were happening. We just got that exact same ping in New York.
Yeah. So he may be flying to New York to get there on time.
Yeah. So he was like, he was even like, he said, you want help or anything? He said, no, thanks. Bye. He just hung up the phone. He was gone.
Yeah. We're in for, I think we're in for a great finale because this show has consistently been getting better and better with each episode.
Mm-hmm.
With this, and I agree with you, this has been the best episode, at least of this series, if not of all Disney Plus series so far. And we may have peaked. I don't know if the finale will be as good as this particular episode was, just with how meaty it was. But I think we're in for some. We're in for the climax here.
We're in for some true Marvel like action.
Yeah,
I think like in the first portion of the show, and then we're really going to get like. Do you think we're going to get confirmation of Sharron, or are they going to leave that open?
They may leave that open. Yeah,
because we have that. We have Walker.
John Walker. We see in an after credits scene that he's creating his own shield.
So what kind of part is he going to play in this ending here? We have the Flag Smashers going after the vote for, them basically putting borders back and basically deporting people and throwing them in these holding camps and all this stuff here. So we have that taking place. Batrox, I think that's how
Batroc the Leaper, he's back in it now. Yeah.
So he's going to play a part. There's a lot that needs to happen.
Everything is converging.
Yeah, in this last episode. And I know what? I would not be shocked if they pushed it over the hour mark with credits and everything. I mean, we're flirting with it already. 58 minutes. Yeah. So if they pushed it a little over and then gave us, say 58 minutes worth of time that ran.
Right.
But I mean, it feels like you're watching a movie. And I think that's the biggest compliment I can give them.
Oh yeah, they've paced this thing out to where each episode you want the next episode immediately. Like I can't wait for Friday because it has been a very long, in-depth movie with really great dramatic work by the actors and a lot of character development. So yeah, we'll be here this time next week to talk about it.
Yeah, there we go, guys. Well, Sean just said it. I mean, we'll be back. The after show is going to live on. We're going to figure out how they wrap this up, if they wrap it up, or if they leave loose ends on purpose to go ahead and tie into other things. Feige has been very, very cryptic on what this ties into. I mean, they were very straightforward with WandaVision. This one here, they're not saying. So that means they got a lot going on.
Right.
And I mean, it's so much fun.
Fastest 6-hour movie. You got that right, Jason.
That's awesome.
It went by. It's been incredibly well paced, but it's been enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, join us every Friday night, 10 o'clock. We go live for our after show. If you're not watching it live, you're not watching live. You should watch it live. Wow, I don't know where I was going with that.
Go to our YouTube page. If you're not on YouTube already, if you're not a subscriber, if you haven't liked our videos, go there now and do that now. Because it really helps out our YouTube channel. Check out thatandrock.com for everything else that we do, including the audio podcast. And I think that's about it for tonight.
Okay, guys. Well, like every other time, I'll just go ahead and tell you guys to keep it cheesy.
See ya.